I'm sorry, I walked away. What was that? Good morning.
Good morning.
It looks like we are live, so we will go ahead and call this meeting of the Legislative and Advocacy Committee to order. It is 10 a.m. on April 4th, 2025. Instead of calling an official roll, I would like, because we have really pretty much almost everybody's a new member of this committee with some limited exceptions. So I would like everybody just to go ahead and introduce themselves, and I'll call on you as you're on my screen. So, Dr. Boris Shadeh, you're first.
Present.
Miss Kimberly Johnson Miller,
Present.
and you are the new Chief
Oh,
Financial
I'm
Officer.
sorry. I am the new CFO for St. Louis Public Schools, and I'm excited to be a part of this committee.
All right, we'll get back to Mr. Carroll at the end. Dr. Dino.
I am Allison Dino. I'm the Chief of Schools.
Ms. McLaughlin.
Hi, I'm Laura McLaughlin. I'm the new General Counsel at St. Louis Public Schools.
Mr. Conover.
Hi, everyone. I'm the newest board member at the St. Louis Public Schools Board of Education, City of St. Louis Board of Education.
I think next is Ms. Nolan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gloria Nolan, Parent Liaison for St. Louis Public Schools. Happy Friday.
And Ms. Vaughn, I'm not sure if we've ever really introduced you ever. You've just been working really hard. Who to go? Dr. Barry.
Good morning. I'm Myra Berry, and I'm the Chief Human Resource Officer, and I'm excited to be on this committee.
Dr. Hubbard.
Well, I'm not an official member of the committee. I'm Dr. Hubbard. I'm the Director of Compliance and Internal Audit.
And I think President Cousins. No introduction necessary. And then, so with that, I'm going.
Good morning, everyone. President Cousins, Tony Cousins, St. Louis Public School Board.
And the co-chair of this committee. And so with that, I will turn it over to the district's Jefferson City political consultant lobbyist, Mr. Steve Carroll. The first on the agenda is for a legislative update as we are in the final stretch of the 2025 legislative season. So I know a lot has happened and not a lot has happened and a lot is going to happen, or maybe not a lot is going to happen. So give us the details.
All right. Well, I'll try to keep this short and sweet, but certainly want to give you a rundown of what's going on so far. And to Ben, welcome to the school board. We haven't met yet, but there's a lot going on. I trust that you've been getting my weekly reports on the legislative session. As Matt said, a lot has been going on. It's been a very busy session to deal with, quite frankly. One, because of term limits in the General Assembly, we have 55 new House members and 7 new senators this year. So that was a lot of new folks to get acquainted with, to certainly let them know our position on the issues. But so far, we've been successful in doing that. Also, it's been a very busy year from the standpoint that this is my 40th legislative session, either as a former legislator or lobbyist. And there's never been this many bills filed before. Roughly over 2,800 bills have been filed. That's not including the hundreds of amendments or substitute bills, committee substitutes. So it's a lot to keep track of. Currently, we're tracking over 300 education bills ourselves. And so things are going fairly well to date. We'll see where the last 6 weeks of the session gets us. Yesterday, the House passed out their version of the FY26 state budget. It was a $48 billion budget, roughly $2 billion less than what the governor had requested. That now goes over to the Senate, where Senator Lincoln Huff, basically as the chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee, has been writing his own budget for the state. So we'll see where the House and the Senate end up in as far as their committees and working together to work the budget out. Was disappointed in the House budget, for instance. They went along with the governor's recommendation to take $50 million and put it into the tax credit voucher program for the state. It's the first time ever that general revenue has been authorized to be put in the budget. My understanding, the Senate doesn't want to go along with that, but we'll see what happens. It'd probably also be challenged in court. First time ever that GR has been put into this voucher program, or at least they want to. It's always been tax credits. They think it's such a successful program. It can go up to 75 million in tax credits. Currently, only about 17 million has been used. So not a lot of people are thrilled about this project, but the education choice people are going to try to push it through as much as they can. Also, the House underfunded the foundation formula by about 300 million, basically not increasing the state adequacy target that was mandated to take effect this year. And so they didn't do that. It's my understanding, talking with Lincoln Huff, that he wants to fully fund the formula. He said, you passed Senate Bill 727 last year. We have an obligation to fully fund it. So we'll see where the House and the Senate come down on this. It's going to be an interesting next 5 weeks. The budget has to be completed 1 week before the end of the legislative session per the Constitution. So that's kind of where we're at with that. As far as legislation that we've been tracking, there's a lot of things that we've been able to kill already. For instance, one is House Bill 341, which is the caps the superintendent's salary, takes the power away from the local school board to make the superintendent's salary their decision. We've been able to kill it in committee, and we're going to keep it dead as well. Also, we've been able to kill Senate Bill 24, which was in the Senate Education Committee. It's not going anywhere. Basically, it was just kind of a statewide open enrollment that a child, if they reside in the school district, they can go anywhere they want to a private school, homeschool, parochial school, and they can take the money, the state money with them wherever they go. Crazy bill. Then we had a Senate Bill 42, which was the school safety bill, where you had to have annual assessments and mandates that you had to do certain things to your building. It was just basically a legal nightmare to where the school district could get sued constantly, in my opinion. And we've been able to kill that bill, and in its place have Senate Bill 68, sponsored by Senator Henderson, which is a safety bill that works with DESE, works with school districts. It's not anything that's mandated. And also, for the first time, it deals with basically electronics, student electronics, such as their cell phones, that a school district has to have in place by the school year 26-27, in dealing with students and their electronic devices, where they have to put them away during academic times. And so each school district gets to do their own program with that. And it just has to be satisfied by DESE. Some other bills that we have been watching. There is a omnibus safety bill that Representative Lewis has introduced. It has passed the House. Nothing in it that's crazy. There's various provisions in this omnibus bill, one dealing with the retired teachers, where they can come back and teach in the classroom without giving up their retirement benefits. That was scheduled to sunset on 2025, but we take the sunset up to 2030. It also deals with the 169 days where you can get the extra 1% for teacher's salary, but the inclement weather issue was a problem, so it deals with that issue as well. So we're happy to see that over into the Senate, and we're going to have a hearing on it next week, so we're happy about that. Another bill that I might add that we've been watching, been able to kill, is Senate Bill 115, which deals with the critical race theory, the 1619 project, where the schools were teaching that they would lose 50% of their state aid. It also has the Bad Parents Bill of Rights in it. So that bill is dead in committee currently, and we hope to keep it that way. There is a better Parents Bill of Rights bill, I guess you could call it, that has passed the House, but it's kind of an omnibus bill. It was passed out of the House by a vote of 132 to 11, but it's really just there's various provisions in it. Again, it has some school safety issues in the bill. It also improves the anti-bullying provisions that school districts are dealing with. It also has the student electronics, the cell phones, where you have to have a policy. But then they have the what's known as the Missouri Educators and Parental Empowerment Rights Act in it. And since they really have never been able to pass a crazy parents' bill of rights, this is a very watered down version where they think they can get this one across the finish line, where the school districts have to provide parents with information on what's being taught, things of this sort, many of which you're already providing parents anyway. And then also the teachers' bill of rights, which basically is in any of your contract agreements with teachers right now anyway in school districts. So nothing in that bill is too crazy that a school district can't live with. One bill that we're really happy to support, it could become part of a bigger omnibus bill, but I doubt if it goes anywhere, is Senate Bill 177, which is a certificate of need for any new charter schools that would be opening up in St. Louis or Kansas City. It's sponsored by Maggie Nuremberg. It's a good bill. We had a hearing on it 2 weeks ago. So there's a lot of talk about it. There's too many charters that are going up, and it would give the state Board of Education the ability to say yes or no on any new charters, but the local school board would also have the ability to weigh in as well. Another bill is Senate Bill 360 that we're currently watching. It was passed out of the Senate Education Committee. It's currently on the Senate calendar for perfection to be debated, which would do away with the MAP test, do away with all state oversight of a school district being unaccredited, accredited, provisionally accredited, and instead allow the school district to choose one from a national school accreditation agency. This is sponsored by Senator Jill Carter, and certainly it has some support out there. We'll see if it can go anywhere in debate. Another bill we've been watching, Senate Bill 485, which would change the April school board elections to November. We feel like if we have that bill killed, we've always been opposed to it in the past. Also, House Bill 1044, we think we have that killed, which is the statewide charter school expansion bill as well. Then there's another bill that was sponsored by Senator Steve Roberts, Senate Bill 257, that's been assigned to the Senate Pensions Committee, but it hasn't gone anywhere yet, where it would give two charter school personnel the ability to serve on the St. Louis Public School Retirement Board. But so far that hasn't gone anywhere. Let me also talk about yesterday. Matt Davis and Tony Cousins came to Jeff City and testified on behalf of House Bill 404, which is the bill that increases our contribution rate into the retirement system, currently with 12.5%, takes it to 14%. This was, we had long discussions over the summer and the fall with the retirement board to get to this position. Obviously, the retirement board wanted more, but this is what we were able to come up with, and it seems to have support from everybody. It was a good committee hearing yesterday. We already have this bill on another retirement bill, House Bill 187, which is currently over in the Senate. That deals with the police retirement system, but it's really an omnibus retirement bill. But anyway, we think that we can get this bill across the finish line before the end of the session, unless, of course, the Senate explodes and breaks down. But right now, it's moving. We feel good about it. The other bill that's kind of the elephant in the room, obviously, is House Bill 711, which is the open enrollment bill. There was a different Senate version of this bill, 215, which was just a crazy bill that would allow a student, no matter what district they may live in, to go to any district in the state, and that district, the resident district, would have to pay for transportation and would have to give the state adequacy target to wherever that child went. we were able to kill that bill in the Senate Education Committee, but currently House Bill 711 is in the Senate Education hearing. It has not been given a hearing yet, so we're kind of waiting to see. I know that a lot of school boards in the state have filed a resolution in opposition to this bill. I think over half of the districts have. However, in House Bill 711 on page 18 of the bill, I've got the provision in that allows us to opt out of the bill since we were under a DSEG order. And so right now, we don't know when that bill is going to be heard. It could be heard next week or the following week in the Senate Education Committee. We'll be testifying on the bill. But I think what you're seeing is they're playing some games between the House and the Senate. So is there a deal going to be cut that they're going to let the open enrollment bill go through if they fully fund the formula and do away with the 50 million in the voucher program? There's just a lot of behind the scenes negotiating going on right now that we just don't know what's going to happen. So that's kind of where we're at with the legislative session so far. I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can, but that's just a quick wrap up, Matt.
Yeah, quick wrap up of a lot that's been going on and that can still happen. I do want to recognize it looks like Dr. Pollock has joined us. Dr. Pollock, say hi. All right, he said hi. So are there, I've got a few questions, but I'll turn it over to anybody else if you've got questions first. So just jump in and go ahead.
Steve, thanks for the update. This is Ben.
Hey, Ben.
Nice to formally meet you on this meeting. I think we met maybe a few years ago at the one of the Parents Action Days, but it's good to meet you.
I think
Yeah, you meet
right.
a lot of people those days, so I totally understand. Well, I just missed the bill number on the Parents Bill of Rights bill. Could you give me that number?
Well, the watered down version,
Yeah, that one.
okay, is House Bill 408 et al. And it passed out of the House 132 to 11.
Yeah.
There are several provisions in it, but it's the watered down version. The Bad Parents Bill of Rights is Senate Bill 115 that we've been able to kill.
Great.
And I prefer to refer to those bills as teacher censorship bills.
Yeah,
that's basically what they are.
Right. No, this update's very helpful for me, and thank you for all the work you're doing in Jeff City. Happy to get to work with you as we move forward. So just let us know how we can support you.
Thank you very much.
I also missed
good morning.
Tracy Fantini too, so I'm sorry. Tracy, president of the Parent Action Council, so she's on here as well. Sorry.
Hello.
Hey there. Thanks for joining.
Other questions for Steve?
Yes, so again, I echo that. Thank you, Steve, for all of this. I was trying to keep up, and I heard the open enrollment piece come up. So Senate Bill 24, and then later on, House Bill 711 and Senate Bill 215.
Well, one was introduced.
Can you explain a little bit more about how they're related? And I think up at the top you said that 24 was killed, and so how does that react to the other two that are in play?
Okay, well, Senate Bill 24 is a different bill altogether. I mean, that's just allowing a child to go for homeschooling, parochial school, private school, and take the state money with them. And so that's you call an open enrollment within that same district, but it's different than 711 and 215. 215 was the very extreme bill, which basically is just under the statute that every school district would be considered unaccredited and kids could just leave and the district would have to pay for their transportation. The state adequacy target money would go with that child. So that's the extreme version. We've been able to kill that. That's not going anywhere. The other bill, though, is the House Bill 711, which is I guess you call it the normal open enrollment bill that's been around for 5 years. It's passed the House the last 3 years, and we've always been able to kill it in the Senate. This year, it just passed the House by 86 votes, so 4 votes more than what was necessary to get it over to the Senate. But again, on that bill, we have the exemption for the St. Louis Public Schools because of the DSEG settlement agreement and what we're under. And that's currently on page 18 of the bill that I drafted up. And we may even want our legal counsel in-house to take a look at that in 711 on page 18 to make sure that that covers what we need. But I think it does. It's been in the bill, like I said, the last 3 years. The first year, they were able to take it out. This Justin Hicks in the House kind of fooled the sponsor of the bill and basically lied to him. But we were able to correct that. And so we've got the good language in it.
Yeah, I think the question about the way that it was written was always somewhat dependent on the outcome of the sales tax case that the SAB filed that was decided in the 8th Circuit, I don't know, year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And we did have a discussion about what some of the language in the 8th Circuit case meant about the DSEG order, because as we know, the VIC program is ending. And so there's a perception that, well, if the VIC program is ending, is the DSEG order finished? And it seems to be, from my perspective and perspective of counsel when we discussed it, when that decision came out, that the order seemed to indicate that that the 8th Circuit seemed to indicate that no, the DSEG order is still in effect in many ways, but it's just a burden that is on the school district exclusively, that it appears that the state and then the county is been resolved. So that would be yeah, something for Ms. McLaughlin to look at, and also to read that 8th Circuit case, which was from last year or so ago, which also gives a good history of the last 50 years. So but yeah, no, I appreciate, Steve, that's important. Dr. Borshide, you had a question. You had your hand up.
Yes, the question has been answered, but then now I have another one. My initial question was about when you said that we have an exemption for Senate Bill 711, right? Now then, with the VIC program ending, how does that impact us going forward? Will that exemption carry us through?
So the way that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but the way that the bill is that on an annual basis, school districts that are subject to a desegregation order, the school board will have to certify that they are still subject to this order and that the open enrollment provisions will conflict with that order. So the burden will be on the school board every year to do that determination.
You would have to take a vote every year.
Yeah.
Because, you know, maybe they changed the open enrollment to where maybe it's good for the district at some point, and that gives you the ability to opt in or opt out.
So it basically
Okay,
puts
thank
us in a
you.
unique, it basically, what we've been able to do is use this DSEG situation as a tool to put us out of the open enrollment challenge.
That is correct. That's correct.
Right now. So with that, we're trying to go under the radar with what's going on with Board Bill 711 right now. We are understanding what the other districts are dealing with, but this is something that the St. Louis Public School Board of Education has been working on for the past 3 or 4 years. When open enrollment was first trying to be pushed, we were trying to understand how and the impact that we knew it would have on the district. And this was one of the tools we knew we could use that we've been working on. Like what you heard the lobbyist saying, what Steve was saying is, 1 minute we had it in there, then someone tried to, you know, do some trickery and get it taken out, but now we were able to get it put back in there. So we're trying to make sure that that's one of the tools we can continue to use to kind of protect the district when it comes to this open enrollment drama.
That's right. When the Representative Hicks kind of tricked and fooled the sponsor of the bill, the lobbyist from Rex Singfield was the one that gave him the language. So, you know, they knew it would be devastating to the district. So I think currently we have the correct language in, and we just need to make sure it stays in. So because they may try to take it out in the Senate. It's just You never know.
Thank you.
And-
That's really helpful.
And let me just plant the seed while we're on this forum, and that if this does pass and then there is the exemption language, I would urge that the district and the board do a little more, especially for the first year that you would do this, a little more analysis to articulate how open enrollment will increase segregation in the St. Louis public schools. I don't think that's hard. That's not a hard thing to prove. I think on its face, it's a very discriminatory bill the way that it's currently written. And I also do believe we have a history of a lot of data that shows between the open enrollment that we have within our own district, between the magnet schools and just neighborhood schools, open enrollment transportation, data on the VIC program on how that affected demographics in the city. It wouldn't be much of a stretch to sit there and figure out how, if open enrollment affected St. Louis public schools, that it would be a big step backwards towards desegregated schools in the city. So I'm just planting that seed. If we get to that point, passing the resolution, that a little data analysis would also probably help. And I think Ms. McLaughlin would probably agree once she reads all that stuff. So, Ms.
Right.
Nolan.
And I mean, I'll just add that that's one of the points that I've been using to keep this language in the bill. Just saying, do you want to have another lawsuit on your hands? Because that's what would happen if you didn't have this exemption for the St. Louis public schools. And so far that's been working, because quite frankly, it's the truth.
Absolutely, 100%. Ms.
I
Nolan.
think in addition to the transportation costs would go up, it would just be disastrous.
Absolutely.
And the fact that accepting schools can reject students with IEPs is just unfathomably immoral. I mean, it just sort of shows that what the game really is, and it is to increase segregation, which is why the Show Me Institute is for it.
Right.
Ms. Nolan.
I just had a question about to Mr. Carroll about how parents can support any of this advocacy work. Is it letter writing? Is it providing testimony, or any of those strategies to support SLPS at this time? Because there seems to be a lot on the table.
Well, I think the best way at this point, with only 6 weeks left in the session, is to electronically connect with your senators as much as you can, because really almost everything's over in the Senate right now. I mean, if you've got a House bill that's still in the House that hasn't left yet, I mean, chances are it's not going anywhere because you've run out of time. So on any Senate bills or House bills that are currently in the Senate, I'd be contacting Steve Roberts, Carla May, Tracy McCreary, Maggie Nuremberg, these individuals, the members that serve on the Senate Education Committee.
I think in addition to
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I think in addition to letter writing and reaching out, it's also important that our parents understand the total impact, and that is all of our parents, where we give them, bite-sized information as it relates to the impact.
Yeah, and so Dr. Borsche, I'll just also plant this seed as well. In the past, the sort of the center of that information, that push has been, and while I realize that they represent probably the most informed and most concerned and most active parents, that the district supporting the Parent Action Council in as many ways as possible, the Day of Advocacy, but also Day of Advocacy follow up, things like even on the local level, supporting things like they had probably the best candidate forum, available, that, there's always been From my perspective, historically, for some reason, this reticence to support the Parent Action Council, especially in their advocacy amounts, but they've also, been absolutely critical in my last 4 years here. And not only this committee, but taking information that this committee generates, the legislative priorities of the board, and filtering that down to the parents. And I can point to probably a dozen times where we send out the message with the alarm bells going off and sample messages and who to contact, and it has been effective. And we've heard from legislators that hearing from our parents, and especially hearing from them with their personal stories, but also the fact that they do have that bite-sized information like you have and have an understanding of the bill, because amazingly, there's so much going on. A lot of these representatives, especially in the House, will show up on the floor and things will be presented to them, and they will have not have been in the hearing. They will not have been following it. And hearing from us, their constituents, that, hey, this is a priority. Sometimes it wasn't a priority to them because they were working on other stuff that they were assigned to. So it's been critical. So I'm so glad to hear you say that. And I just want to point out again that the PAC, with Gloria being the liaison, and Tracy and Avis and Emily, and then everybody else. I mean, you could go through all the lists of the involved parents who are just even working behind the scenes all the time. It's been a huge change, I think, since they've taken on this different role and been able to do that. So, and working with the district and not just the board, I think is important.
Well, I think
And
that's
in
helpful
addition
to
to
know.
that,
I think
in
that'll
addition
be
to
helpful.
that,
Go ahead, Dr.
Do I need a gavel?
I'm sorry. I don't see her. I just hear a voice. Okay. In addition to that, the PAC is always at the parent university. And so when it's time to go, it would be really, really good to also take parent university, those parents, to Jeff City as well, so that they see, understand how their voices are needed and heard, in making a difference.
I
And
think
I'm not paying for the bus next year. So
well, I
just
think
so
that's
you know.
helpful to know, Vice President Davis, considering you will probably now be a part of the PAC.
Right.
You see how I threw that in there, Steve and Tracy. I kind of set them up for that, didn't I?
Yep.
Well, if
Representative
that's the
Kirk.
case,
That's
if
a very
that's the
nice
case,
job.
parents can still pay for buses, right, President Cousins?
That's right.
With
And
that
just-
said, let's talk
I
about
said
the
parents can still pay for buses.
let's talk about the concept of the resolution that we're looking to do.
That's our next agenda item. If I could just finish with the questions for Steve, and we'll move on to that.
Well, I think it was a part of that question, but go ahead. I don't want to run your meeting.
Yes, you do.
There
Do your
is one
thing, sir.
issue that I'll close with. I forgot to mention that for the past 4 years, we have been able to get $2.5 million line item in the budget for our reading literacy program. And it got put into the core. DESE put it in, and Governor Parson recommended it each year. Well, DESE recommended it again this year, working with them. Carla Esslinger, I made sure she put it in, but Governor Kehoe did not recommend it. So the House went along with most of Kehoe's recommendations on education, so it's not in the House. But Lincoln Huff, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Senator Huff, and I have been good friends for a lot of years. And he has put it in the Senate version of the budget. He has put it back in. That 2.5 million is there. I think we'll be able to keep it in conference. He said, "Don't worry, Steve." He said, "I got your back." But the big deal is having to make sure that Kehoe, if we do get it through and to his desk, doesn't line item veto it, because he very well could. So we need to set up a meeting. If we can get it through the budget, we need to set up a meeting with Kehoe and or his chief of staff and folks sometime in June to make sure that we let him know that this money is important to the district. So
That is so good to hear because Dino and I were just talking about this yesterday. So that's so good to hear that.
So
Well,
Steve,
2.5
that 10 million we've got, I mean, no other school district in the state has a line item that big just for their own district. And that's been very helpful
And
to the district.
I
I'll just let me just add that Steve has been a warrior for that money.
He has
Every
been.
time I have been in Jefferson City and every representative that we met of influence, he reminded them of that. And we always conveyed the importance of it and the fact that welcoming all of those legislators to, if they wanted to come visit and we could take them around and show them literally where that money is being spent. It's one of those things where I said, every dollar you spend, we can show you where it is in the classroom and how it's making an impact. And I think actually, Dr. Dino and Dr. Borshade, I think probably now more than ever, we can show that impact. Like you just showed it with Commissioner Esslinger in Purpose. Like you can go into the classroom and literally see, this is how we spent that money. This is what this student learned because of that money. It's been pretty impactful. And thank you, Steve, for all that work.
I think with that, part of what Ms. Gloria, Ms. Tracy, I think the role in the parent university, I think what we should be doing as well is presenting something to Senator Lincoln and letting him know. We appreciate what you've done. Like you're saying, letting him see and understand the impact. Like we need to flush as much to them to show the impact of what this been doing so that they know, so that he knows what his fight has been doing. I think you definitely, Steve, should try sooner rather than later to get a meeting with the governor, because we need to let him know. We know the pressure you're probably getting from whomever you're getting in regards to public education, but we need to start putting the pressure on him as well. You know, they need to understand that we're not just going to sit by the side and allow them to do whatever they're trying to do. And the open enrollment has to be the first movement, because we can't sit on the sidelines. That, to me, I thought that, and I know that's what this legislative committee is supposed to be about.
Yeah. And let me add that Senator Huff has told me as well that he plans on, if he keeps it in there, to send a letter to the governor stating this is personally important to him.
Mhm.
And having a letter from him will be very important. So
Yeah.
that will help us, I think.
Tracy, then Gloria.
Thanks. Right along with what President Cousins was saying, what I feel is essential to help with communicating to the parents so that they can communicate to the legislators is some concrete examples, like President Cousins was just saying. If we could, if I can get with one of you that can say, you know, it did this in the classroom, you know, specifically, and helped our kids, so that we can kind of give those, you know, give parents, you know, rather than a more broad general idea. We need the parents in telling their stories and relating to them, how it is directly impacting their kids, so they can communicate that.
Yes. Gloria.
I just wanted to get clarification on one of the first things that Steve mentioned, and that was the $50 million going into the
Vouchers?
program. Is that the vouchers? Is that a done deal?
No, it's not. It passed the House. Now it goes to the Senate. And Lincoln Huff has indicated he doesn't want to give $50 million of GR to a voucher program. Now, I mean, there's going to be a lot of deals cut. So is he willing to give $50 million to a voucher if we get our $300 million to fully fund the formula so we can increase the SAT to the school district? But, you know, you got to remember, St. Louis Public Schools, we don't get a lot of state aid. Most of ours is local. So, you know, it's different for every school district. So, you know, it's not a done deal yet. So we'll see what happens. I know that the Democratic senators are working very hard to keep that 50 million out of the budget.
And
But what are
Steve,
the,
you know, again, I know that things happen fast and hearings are called and canceled and rescheduled all the time, but you know, we have a few parents who have flexible schedules that can, you know, can come up to Jeff City and testify if you need for any
I
of
mean,
these
right
bills.
right now, most of the testimony time is just about over. So that's why I think it's better for parents to directly email senators because the only major bill I think left for a hearing is going to be House Bill 711 in the Senate Education Committee. There's no more public testimony on appropriation bills at this time.
And that's going to be one where there's going to be 800 people testifying, and they'll get down to the point where like we don't want to hear you anymore. We've already cut the deal. So,
Yeah, it's all.
we've done this at least the last 2-3 years, and we've testified against open enrollment, you know, multiple times. It's year 5, right?
Yeah. Well, this is my 40th year doing this, and I can tell you what happens is the chairman of the committee, you know, he's limited to 2 hours before they go in. And so you sit there and they allow the proponents to come up for this whatever education choice stuff, and they take up an hour and 45 minutes of it. And then the ones that oppose it, we get 15 minutes. So I'm going to have to cap you to 2 minutes each, and that's how it normally goes. So, you know, it's you know, it's rigged. So you just got to wait until the bill comes out of committee and then try to kill it.
Right.
And that, so.
I just have 2 quick questions just to sort of clarify. So you talked about the safety bills. So there's 2 that have passed.
Actually, there are 3. You've got House
Right.
Bill 416, which is Brenda Shields' bill,
Right.
and that's an omnibus safety bill and mandating that, you know, schools have locks and this, but it's all subject to appropriation. The state has to pay for it.
So
So
there's
I'm not worried.
appropriations, and I know that John McDonald of MSBA actually helped work on that bill. And so what in my read, the stuff that already exists that for things that are already in place, I think we're pretty well 99% there, if not 100% there on all of that stuff. Again, thanks to Dr. Boris Shade and, you know, our new safety director. It comes from MSBA, so he's on top of all that stuff as well. And then everything else was for new construction mandates. It was almost like a building code,
Right.
Which was probably good.
Right.
And then so I guess my real question is, so those 2 we are good with, we can live with. The one that we weren't good with was actually the one that and that was only restricted to St. Louis County and St. Louis City, right?
That's right. The Senator Mosley's bill, Senate Bill 42. It's dead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to mention that, you know, in that testimony, there were actually some teachers from CVPA that went up and testified. So I just wonder if there's any kind of outreach to the staff and parents at that school, just to reiterate the safety measures as well as the Prop S and other investments that we have and are making in the safety of that, because honestly, their testimony was mostly misinformation. So I just wanted to point that out. You know, I don't just want to kill the bad bill, but I also want to make sure that our own community understands how seriously and what we've been doing in that. And you know, and it's very unfortunate that Senator Mosley has introduced that bill 2 years in a row without even having a simple conversation with us. But it is what.
Yeah, but I think we need to. I agree totally with you in regards to that, but I think it needs to be better explained, had that bill passed, the impact that bill would have had on St. Louis Public School and on the school system as a whole. And like what Vice President Davis is saying, but it was very misleading, and I think we should better inform the staff and the community really what has been occurring at CSMB, as well as CVPA and all the other schools in regards to what we're doing to put safety measures in place for all of our schools.
And I mean, if it didn't, what it was requiring didn't make a lot of sense because it just seemed like it was going to require a lot of expenditures, a lot of time. It was really making this whole thing a political football where people can sit there and then, use it to sort of punish districts, but it didn't have any real world effect on safety. It wasn't a real analysis of what was absolutely necessary. And of course, I mean, all of this, it must be said that this is all just sort of a lot of political theater because the problem that they're trying to solve could easily be solved if they did something as simple as a red flag law or any
Yep.
sort of gun control restrictions.
Yep.
I mean, to sit there and to mandate an unfunded mandate to make sure every school is Fort Knox just because they can't put some common sense gun restrictions in place is really what this whole thing is about. So there's my political soapbox on that. And if anybody wants to join in too. My other last question, Steve, just because this one always fascinates me. Jill Carter's bill to basically get rid of the MAP test. Does that bill, does it have like just sort of a triggering mechanism that would go into effect if the federal Department of Education, I guess one either folds or eliminates requirements under Every Student Succeeds Act, or is that something that is regardless of what the federal government does? And I guess my second part of that question, if it's regardless of what the federal government does, if we got rid of the MAP test, have they really studied the implications of how that would affect federal funding?
It's up to each individual school district to determine if they want to go with a national agency or they can continue to go with DESE and the MAP if they want to do that. But it would have to be one from a nationally accredited agency for a school district to use, and DESE would sign off on.
So we would still, in theory, it still has something where we would be compliant with the Every Student Succeeds Act. We would still get federal funding for having a high stakes winner take all test. But it's just we didn't have to go with the MAP test.
That's correct. And I would think, every education group came and testified in support of it, saying, this gives the school district option. We don't have to worry. The MAP test, doesn't really look at everything academically good for a student. And it gives some flexibility to school districts instead of saying you're unaccredited or you're provisionally accredited. No, are you meeting the standards or not? So it's just a simplified, but I'm assuming, DESE is working behind the scenes to keep that from happening. So we'll see, but the bill is about, I think, 10 down on the profession calendar for debate. And we'll see. It should be a good debate without a doubt.
It's a fascinating, intriguing, probably necessary discussion. Yes.
Yep.
I just want to say this here. When we think about the total implications of that, not only in terms of federal funding, it just makes me wonder when students graduate from high school and they go to college, if it has been left up to the schools are the students academically rigorously prepared for the subsequent level of success?
I mean, I think the question is, does the MAP test do that now?
I was going to ask that, but that's not for me to ask. I mean, for me to have an answer, and I don't even think that's for Matt to have an answer. I would ask that from an educator's perspective, what is your take? Do you all feel like, what is your stance in regards to that from an educator's perspective? What do you feel the impact of having the MAP testing or not having the MAP testing that it has on the students?
So MAP testing is at the elementary, the EOCs are at the high school. So
that's what I'm asking, either one of them.
Yeah, it at least in terms of professional development, what is it that we need to be working on as we look at trends? And this would be a larger, much more robust conversation. But I just wanted to put that out there.
So the question would go, are they saying, Steve, to take, is the move to remove MAP testing, or is it MAP testing and the EOCs?
I'm not sure I can answer that question, Tony.
Okay.
Just thinking about it. There are some legislators that are viewing this bill 360 as a way to make DESE change the MAP test or add or subtract some things to it, to where districts have more flexibility, I think. I don't think 360 in its form passes as it is. I think it's being used as a vehicle to make DESE want to change the map and give districts more flexibility on student academics. That's how I view it, and I think several others in the education community lobby group view it as well.
And so there was a question about national agencies, accrediting agencies. I've worked with accrediting agencies, and it is a money maker. That's the short end of it. It is a money maker.
Yeah. So someone's making money off the MAP test too. I think though,
it's all about the money.
And so I think part of it is just spread the money around, as part, but I know that also that those pilot programs and, some school districts are in those pilot programs as well. And I know that was something that DESE was sort of looking at to see how flexibility would have an impact. Now, everybody in the pilot program has to take those other ones and still take the MAP test, I think. So, anyway, interesting. I thank you for that answer. I just think that's fascinating. She's been pushing that since the day she's been in the Senate, and I know there's been various iterations, and I know that there's a lot of state legislators on both sides of the aisle that want to do something about the standardized testing. And my question, I think, really sort of revolved around, because part of the reason for the MAP framework is because of it's necessary for federal funding. And if the question of if the federal Department of Education throws everything to the states, does this bill make more sense or not? But that's neither here nor there. Just thank you for the discussion. If there's no more questions for Steve, at this point, I do want to move to our next point, which is the resolution for open enrollment. And I just wonder if, given what we've had the discussion, if we still feel that it's necessary to do that or not, or if we need to change the language. I do want to point out that in our legislative priorities that this committee discusses and drafts and recommends to the board, that we do have under opposing for local control legislation or proposals that authorize any mandate regarding open enrollment. And I think we've had that in there for several years. We might have changed the language a little bit. So this board has been on record, through our legislative priorities or for their legislative platform. We didn't make it a priority this year, but we try to limit those. So I guess I'll just open it up for discussion if we want to continue with the resolution or just table it at this point, given the discussion. Any thoughts?
I'll just give my opinion, being on the ground level there at the Capitol. The sponsor of the bill, Representative Pollitt, has always been good to us in putting that exemption in just for us. But with the understanding that, hey, if you don't put it in, this happens, there's going to be a lawsuit. At the same time, if open enrollment passes in its current form, I believe there'll be a lawsuit anyway from school districts and from taxpayers, residents. But since we do have our exemption in at this point with 6 weeks left, I would do nothing. It's already in our legislative platform. Let's just let a sleeping dog lie and just let's see what happens. If we have a hearing on this bill next week and there's a committee substitute that takes our language out, we'll have plenty of time to get on that list, saying that we're opposed to it if we need to. But right now, I think we just need to chill. That's my opinion. May not be in the majority opinion, but I just wanted to give you, I'm dealing with it every day.
No need to poke the bear, right, Steve? That's the idea.
That's kind of the way I look at it. There's no sense in upsetting the sponsor of the bill when he's giving us our exemption. Even
Yeah,
though
and our position,
we think it's bad public policy, we already know
right.
that. We've put it in our platform. So
Right, but our position as a board is clear. It's just that if we go out and make a public statement now, the exception that we currently have in the bill could be affected.
I think so. And quite frankly,
Be in jeopardy.
the legislators that support open enrollment, they don't care that the local school boards
Right.
have signed up on a deal that we don't like it. So what? They're going to vote for it one way or the other, quite frankly. I'm not saying it hasn't helped. It's certainly helped with more rural legislators than
Yeah.
it has with urban, because a lot of rural legislators view open enrollment as nothing but school consolidation
Right.
in these smaller communities. And
Right.
that's where, if you'll look at the majority of the school boards that have been there, they're more rural than they are urban.
If you have 100 or 50 kids in your entire school district and 3% are going to go to play football, there's, they say it's not about football, but go play football in the other county, your school district is over.
I mean, and we stand, I mean, as a board member, I stand on the statement that I've made. It will affect, the open enrollment will hurt public education, public schools, just as what I've said and what you all are just saying. If this happens, it will affect your Hillsborough, your, all of these smaller schools. If that happens, they will fold. The communities would dry up, they will lose. And that's what we can stand on as board members, statements as individuals to make and say. But where we are as a district in the position that we're in, I just personally wouldn't feel comfortable moving forward with the resolution, because if we do, it will hurt us in a different way. Just my thoughts.
Okay, well, we will table that resolution, but I'm glad that it was brought forth and we could have that discussion in it. And again, I'm also glad that we've had this in our priorities. Before, honestly, a lot of the school districts that passed this resolution woke up to the fact that open enrollment was there, because we were in those meetings and they acted like it wasn't a big deal. And I think it would affect, I mean, I can't imagine the effect it would have on St. Louis County. Okay. So with that, is there any other thing that members of the committee want to bring up that we haven't discussed? I was trying to keep these to an hour and we got 2 minutes left. I just want to thank everybody. I know we've got a lot of new members, but I just want to thank everybody for the support, continued support of this committee. I looked through my emails in the inaugural committee meeting of this Legislative and Advocacy Committee, which didn't exist before Ms. Cousin and I were on the board, was July 15th, 2021. And if I was really getting sentimental, I would go through all of the things that we were able to accomplish. It started in that first year dealing with what ended up being House Bill 1552. And it also morphed into things like the moratorium on charter schools and actually
citywide plan.
And there have been multiple other things, the $850,000 for lead fence remediation. There's probably just so many impacts that this has had. And hopefully it's helpful for the administration to have this discussion with Mr. Carroll and the Parent Action Committee, with the union leadership, who I don't know, where are they today? And then also board members. So I hope it continues.
I also want to say thank you all so much for your stewardship and leadership in this space. Going to Jeff City, Mr. Carroll updating us on all of the things that would impact St. Louis Public Schools, our community. This has been extremely helpful. Not only are we educating the staff on the inside, but we're educating staff and our community and our parents. And so I really, really, really do appreciate the work that has been done and the total impact, total overall impact.
Well, I'm not a sentimental person, but I have to be on this one. Vice President Davis,
I'm gonna turn my camera off if you're gonna do this.
you are truly going to be missed in this space. Leading this legislative committee has been phenomenal. To see what we were able to do yesterday, to see the fight that we've had in the past 4 years for the families, the teachers, the administration. I just don't think people understand, you know, what we've done and what we've tried to do, but the commitment that you had, the unwavering support that you've had, and the last testimony that you did yesterday, the knowledge, the insight is just, you know, unbelievable. And I just don't think people get the love that we have, you know, for this district. And like you said, we don't have enough time to go over what we've been able to do or what you've been able to do. And you're going to be missed.
Well, having a serious policy discussion in Jefferson City, a bipartisan discussion, which was the result of meaningful conversations that we've had over the course of 3 years. And then at the end of the day, knowing it was only to impact our teachers, to make it a better work experience so that they can support our students, was what this committee was always about, and what I think the work of the board is always about. And I'm glad that that's kind of how I'm ending my term, was that yesterday with Mr. Carroll's support and the support of Dr. Boris-Shadeh and, you know, the administration through the last 3 years, that, you know, something as mundane as, you know, a retirement system, we know that that's what we're supposed to be doing. And so I'm glad that we could do that. And I appreciate everybody's support through this committee, because, you know, there was some resistance even to do it. And I think it is certainly one of my proudest achievements, for
Yes.
sure.
Well, let me chime in then as we're ending here. As you know, I've represented this district for 27 years, and I've worked with a lot of school board members, elected members, and SAB members. And I can tell you unequivocally, without a doubt, that Tony Cousins and Matt Davis are two of the hardest working school board members I've ever had the privilege of working with. And their knowledge, they've taught me a lot about the school district as well. I hope that I've helped them understand the legislative process better as well. But Matt, you are truly, I'm going to miss you a great deal without a doubt. And I hope that you will continue to be involved. And Tony, I wish you nothing but luck next week, because I want you back. And it's been a pleasure to work with you. And so, and Ben, I'm looking forward to working with you as well as we move forward in the years ahead.
Well, same to you, Steve. I've said this many times, but in the list of people whose heart and soul are with the St. Louis Public Schools, you are at the top of that list. And I don't think you ever get the credit or appreciation, because people
Yes.
probably don't see the way you move and how you fight. But
Right.
100%, you are one of us. And I'm so glad that you
Yes,
are.
we are lucky. We are very lucky. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for
appreciate it.
your service, Steve. Listen, we would be lost in Jeff City without you, for real.
Oh, there's plenty of good lobbyists down there, but I
None
appreciate
like
that.
you. None like you, for real.
I have
Okay.
learned a lot about the district in the last 27 years, I'll tell you that.
Okay. Yeah, that's enough of this. This
Right,
meeting
all right.
adjourned.
No, I get one
All right.
more, especially since we stopped the recording. But no, I've worked with Matt now for a lot of years as a parent. And I don't intend to allow you to step too far out of this space. So while you may not be doing it as a board member, you know, publicly, privately, you know, we're gonna need you, and I know you're gonna be there. And I just have to say, you know, how much I appreciate everything you and Tony have done, and it is probably one of the I've been privileged to do a lot of wonderful things in my life, and great things, and work with great people. But the past 3 or 4 years, you know, if I'm remembered for anything, I hope it's for some of what we've accomplished as parents and working with the board. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Tracy. Yeah, no, we're not done. I mean, it's just a different thing.
Yeah, he's burning out. He's done. He's leaving me.